Alrighty, welcome back everybody. We're starting in the Linux fundamentals part, or the Linux fundamentals module of pre-security. So we're actually getting into some fun stuff now. It says we're going to embark on the journey of learning the fundamentals of Linux, learn to run some of the first essential commands on an interactive terminal suite. There's a video as normal. It's about 30 minutes long. I highly suggest actually watching those. So they have a little introduction. It's just introducing Linux as an operating system. So when we're talking about operating systems, we're thinking things like Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Androids, all that type of stuff. So we're going to go into a little bit of background on Linux. It is displaying, or it's talking about how there's a good amount of advantages to running Linux, especially about how lightweight that it can actually be. You can even run Linux off of USB sticks because they're that lightweight. They can run without a GUI, so like Windows and Mac, typically when you think about those guys, there's always a GUI interface with them. Linux, most distributions have either a choice between it, so depending on your usage is whether or not you actually want to be running that. So talking about distributions, use that word, so that's what they mean when they're talking about the flavors of Linux. So much like how there's different versions of Windows, whether 8, 10, 11, ME, XP, all those, Linux gets a lot more tailored. So there's some popular ones like Ubuntu, Mint, Debian. Then there's more tailored ones, maybe Red Hat, Cent, or like Kali Linux, things like that. So it just depends on what your use case is as to which distribution of Linux that you're really going to be diving into. For most of TryHackMe, when it comes to attack boxes and virtual boxes, it ends up being a distribution of Ubuntu. So we do have a question here. What year was the first release of a Linux operating system? So I went ahead and Googled that. So what year is the first release of a Linux operating system? It is 1991. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that in. It was not up here. It was, hey, you need to use your head a little bit and just go ahead and Google it. Whenever you see this icon on a lab, typically it means that there's a deployable machine at the start. If you see it, go ahead and click it. That way you can save some time as it's starting in the background as you are going through. So how TryHackMe likes to do this is when you start up machines, this is typically a premium feature, so you might need to pay for that subscription. At the top of the room, we'll get a title, we'll get an IP address, and usually there's a 2-hour time limit on them. So for us, we have our title right here, Linux Fun Part 1 Version 2. We'll see an IP address of it in 22 seconds, and it'll expire in about 2 hours. On the right side of the screen, our desktop is starting. So cool. We now have an instance of Ubuntu running. You might say, hey, I've seen Ubuntu, that doesn't look like Ubuntu. Well, this is one without a GUI on it, so it's still Ubuntu, it's running it, like you can read here. Support, bam, welcome to Ubuntu 20.04.6 LTS version, so cool. So we now have an instance of Linux running. So for the rest of this room, we're going to be going through a couple commands, alright? You guys are more than welcome to go ahead and read through these. What I like to do is whenever I get one of these command tables in TryHackMe, I'll start writing them down for notes. That way I can use them in future labs, and I just have a repository of notes that I'll use. So for this guy over here, like I just open up Notepad. Here's pretty much the commands that we will be going through for today's module. So I'll copy and paste that and put it in the description if you guys don't want to. But it's not rocket science, it's just making it easier for future rooms. So we're going to go over the echo command, which outputs any text that we provide, as well as who am I, which tells the user who they're currently logged in as. So over here in the example, it says echo, and then in quotes, it has hello friend. So if you've ever done any sort of intro programming stuff in Windows, typically one of the first things you do is how to pop up a Windows prompt that says hello world. This is a similar function to that. So we can say, we're going to go ahead and look at the questions here. If we wanted to output the text TryHackMe, what would our command be? So that's going to be echo TryHackMe, but it's in quotes. So don't forget the quotations. Bam. And then we are going to go ahead and try that out over here, actually in it. So we went and said command echo and then quotes TryHackMe, and TryHackMe was displayed. So that was pretty cool. And the next one says, what is the username of who you're logged in as on your deployed Linux machine? So we're going to use that command of who am I, and what do you know? Our username is TryHackMe. Another way to also see that is on this line right here. It says TryHackMe at Linux 1. So we are user TryHackMe. That's who we're logged in as to right now. So congratulations, you've ran your first 2 commands. Next, we're going to learn how to interact with a file system. So we have 4 commands here, and it's all about navigating. Well, not all of them, but I guess that's coming up. But it is just about interacting. So we have ls, which shows the listing. So if we do ls, it will show us we have 4 folders, folder 1, 2, 3, 4, and a file called access.log in the directory that we're in. cd will change our directory. So let's say if I want to change to folder, I could do cd space folder 1, hit enter, and then it will change me over into folder 1. The command of cat is short for concatenate, and that lets you read the contents of files. So like if there's a text file, you can say cat and then access.log, and it'll show you the entries for access.log. And then you have pwd, which is print working directory, and that just helps out as you're navigating. If you're using change directory a lot, print working directory will let you know where you're at. So running through these examples, we have ls over here in the example area. It says there's important files in my documents, notes, and pictures. In our virtual box over here, we have folder 1, 2, 3, 4, and access log. Then we can change our working directory with cd. Let's see. Oh, it also says, as a useful tip, you don't have to navigate to directories to see what's inside. You can do ls and then the folder name, so like ls folder 1. Alright, and nothing is in that folder, so let's keep on going. Oh, whoops. Folder 2. Oh, it would be great if I could type folder 2, nothing, ls folder 3, ls folder 4. Okay, folder 4 has a text document called note.txt, so you didn't have to navigate to folder 4 to see it. You can use ls in that manner just to go ahead and call it up like that. Let's see, cat is outputting the contents of the file. So over here in the example, they went and listed what was in the documents folder, and they saw that there's todo.txt, and then so they said cat space todo.txt, and it says here's something important for me to do later. So that is the text that was saved inside that to-do file. Alright, and again, as a tip, you can use the entire directory to, like, you don't have to navigate to it. You can tell it cat and point it to where it's at. If you're wondering why that's like /home, then Ubuntu documents to do, if we do pwd, we have our home /TryHackMe directory. That's where we're operating out right now. If we change our directory down a little bit further, it would add that on there. So Ubuntu is the username in this example. TryHackMe is the username in our VM right now. Let's see, and find our full path. All right, we just did that with pwd. Okay, so on the Linux machine, let's go ahead and answer these questions. On this machine that you deploy, how many folders are there? We talked about that. There are 4 folders. If I could get this, bam. Which directory contains a file? We did find that. Remember, that was in folder 4. What is the contents of this file? So we can do this 2 ways. Alrighty. One way is to jump into folder 4. So let's go ahead and do that because we haven't done cd yet. So cd space folder 4. We'll do ls to make sure that we're in the right space. It says note.txt is in there. Next we're going to do cat.note.txt. And hello world is what's inside of that. Boom. Inside that file. So that's answered that. And it says use the cd command to navigate to this file and find out the new current working directory was the path. So if you want that path, we'll do pwd and we are at home slash TryHackMe slash folder 4. Cool. Next, let's go and talk about searching for files. All right, there's two pretty good commands here. One is going to be find. So find can help you either find the specific name of a file, or if you know the format of a file. So in this example up here, we have find space, you do attack name space passwords.txt. So you know that there is a file called passwords.txt, you just can't remember where it's at. So you do that and it will output, hey, it's in folder 1 at passwords.txt is there. Now, if you did not know that there was a file named passwords, but you know that, but if you're just looking for text files, you can use wildcards. So in this example, there's find attack name space, instead for the name of it, you put an asterisk, a little wildcard, you know, a little star, shift 8, .txt, and it will display all of the files of that extension. So the extension is .txt, so we have passwords.txt, that's in folder 1, we have to-do.txt in documents folder. Alright, so we found 2 of them. Next is a very, very, very useful command, and that is grep. So grep allows you to search the contents of files for specific values. So if you're trying to go through a log, so if you remember, we have something called access.log. They have it as well in the example, and you can search for IPs. Maybe you're looking for a particular error code. Maybe it's a type of log where you can see executables, or you know, just different file formats. It makes searching through an entire log, which simply has a whole bunch of entries, much easier. So they also introduce the WC command, which counts the numbers of entries. So if we want to go ahead and do that on ours over here, so we are going to cd // that brings us up a directory. So that brings us up one level. So we were at folder, now we're back up at our regular, where kind we logged in at, where access.log is. Alright, so if we do wc space tac l access.log, there's 302 entries in this log, so that's quite a lot. If we were to use cat, it's just gonna come up as mumbo jumbo. Like that's just too much. So you can use grep to search for an IP address as long as it's in quotes, or you know, in this case, hey, answer the question, use grep on access.log and find the flag that has the prefix of THM. What is the flag? So what we can do is we can say grep quotes THM space access.log, and there we go. We have this entry that's coming from this IP address of 13.127.130.212 on the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you guys. Alright, and it says get THM / access. So there's our flag right there. THM access. So we didn't have to go through 302 lines. We went and did it a little bit smarter with grep. Alright, so grep and find are pretty damn useful. Next up, we're talking about shell operators. So shell operators assist you as you're executing commands. Alright, and there's 4 that we're going to go over here. One is the ampersands or the & sign. If you use that, then it will allow your command to run in the background of your terminal. You might be wondering, well, why do I need to do that? So in this case, where we have an instance of Linux running, and we are in this terminal view over here, if you run like a script, and if it's going to take 20 minutes to run, if it's not in the background, then it's just going. It's just going. So you won't be doing other things because terminal's doing that. So having that ampersands operator will let it go in the background so that you can continue to interact with the terminal. Next up is this double ampersands. So this operator allows you to combine multiple commands together in one line of your terminal. So if you want to give multiple commands, you're just hitting and you can start chaining them together. Alright. Next up is the, I believe, greater than sign, and this is a redirector, which means you can take the output from a command and redirect it somewhere else. So you might be wondering, well, what's the real point of that? Well, you can make, let's say if you're writing a script with 5 different steps in it, maybe it's making logs throughout the way, you can tell it to, maybe write to a file in a log directory where okay, if it outputs 2 here, then I know it was successful, or maybe it's a failure. All right, just depending on how you script it out. But all that's doing is you can take the output of a command and put it somewhere else. All right. Next is greater than, so it's 2 of them, and it does the same thing as the previous one, but it appends it, which means it's not overwriting that file. So you can start having it, well, the first time I ran it, it's here, the second time it's here, the third time it's here, and you can just see multiple entries, which is useful for troubleshooting. All right, let's see, so we're going over, they have a good example here of saying echo, hey, and then they're using the redirector to welcome, so it's saying echo, so you're placing the string of hey over into a file called welcome, and then if you cat to welcome, it'll say hey. Now that overwrites it. If you use both of them like this, then this time they said hello, so hello's here, hey's here, because they just appended it. All right, so let's go ahead and answer these questions. If we want to run a command in the background, what operator will we use? That's that ampersand, so shift 7. Let's see, if you want to replace the contents of a file named password with the word password 123, what would my command be? All right, so to write it, we're going to say echo, then we're going to do the content, which is going to be password 123, then we're going to do that greater than, and then we're going to say the destination, which is passwords. Okay, now if I want to add TryHackMe to this file named passwords, but also keep passwords 123, what would my command be? So this is very similar to what we just did, but the main difference is we're appending, so we want to use that double greater than operator. So we're going to say echo, we're going to do the contents, which is TryHackMe, we're going to do greater than, and it is going to go in the file of passwords as its destination. Sweet, got that. Now use the deploy links machine to put these into practice. You guys are more than welcome to. I'm not going to bog down everyone's time. So we're going to hit complete on that. Conclusion. Congratulations, everybody. You have done your first interactions with Linux. I hope you didn't feel overwhelmed with it. Adjusting to an operating system without a GUI, if you have not done that before, can take some time. Don't feel overwhelmed. The more practice you put into it, the more comfortable you're going to be. Remember, we're taking some good notes so that we can feel more comfortable going into the future, whether it's just the next room of Linux Fundamentals Part 2, or maybe you're already deep into a different learning path and you're doing some wonderful, cool Linux commands and everything. All right, but thank you all for joining me. I hope you all had a good time going through this room, just going through and correct answer on all these. And I do need to terminate this machine. Don't forget to do that. Otherwise it'll stick around for the duration of those 2 hours. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. All right, ciao.